Hello, in this one, a Lacrima weapon craft. In this case, it's a two-hander blunt, and you always want to craft blunt weapons onto your Lacrimas because on a suffix there is a mod called Reflect Damage Multiplier, which can be crafted into physical damage amplification or elemental damage amplification. Besides that, this video is not about how to craft the weapon, as crafting the weapon is really simple. We start with Hamal Authority, as Hamal Authority has a prefix damage amplification when strength is 500 and more, and a suffix damage amplification when 40 health or more. I'm not really sure, is it 40 health on you or is 40 health on the enemies? However, it's one damage amp suffix that you can choose. If you don't have 500 strength, you can choose another authorities that requires, for example, dexterity or intelligence at 500, but with that in mind, you will have to do a transfer in order to get that Hamal suffix. Besides that, I'm using rare imbues, disintegration essences. You can craft a prefix and suffix basically at the same time. It depends on which one you are getting lucky first. I'm using Alyssa essences from time to time because it makes a craft a little bit faster. But for the weapon itself, on the prefix, I'm looking for physical damage flat, damage amplification when strength is 500 and more, and the third mod, I want to get any type damage multiplier against debuff. It can be dot, crowd control, or status effect. All of those work. For suffix, I'm looking for the authority mod with a damage amp at 40 health or more. After that, reflect damage multiplier. And for the third mod on the suffix, it can either be critical damage or a maximized damage. Both of those works really well, as critical damage and maximized damage can just be recrafted into physical damage amplification or elemental damage amplification. And that would be a fairly good craft. At the same time, you don't have to aim for that specific one. You can substitute some of the affixes for some other ones. For example, you could roll a double authority prefix, and the second prefix could be a attack hit rate amplification, which is nice, and actually a lot of people aiming for that when they are doing hard maps, as hard map mods can reduce your hit rate by quite a lot. At the same time, for the suffix, you don't have to necessarily aim for reflect damage multiplier or like a critical damage multiplier. You can also pick up like strength, intelligence, or dexterity, because those rolls, if you roll them at a high tier, they can give you like 100 or more of the stat. At this point, I managed to get my prefix. It took me quite some time crafting this weapon, as there is a lot of energy involved. For the suffix, right now we can only use suffix option birth essences, then suffix removal, and just rare imbue essences. As we don't want to touch our prefix anymore, we only care about our suffix. I managed to get my suffix pretty quickly. I got really lucky with this one. Of course, the craft itself is done. The last thing to do is to use Vespers. On this one, I'm only looking for as much damage amplification as I can, so I want those at highest tier possible. Don't forget to reroll your values to the highest you want to. The one mistake I did with this craft is that I forgot to fix my authority implicit, which as you can see is minion on armor penetration. But remember, you can only do this when you start crafting. Don't start fixing later. After that, what's left is to do the crafts and high crafts. You really want to high craft your Lacrima weapon, as most likely, if you're gonna craft something really good, you're probably gonna stay on that craft for the whole season. What I'm looking for is of course reflect damage multiplier into physical damage amp. And for the high craft, I would be happy with anything that doesn't reduce my damage, and then in this case I got lucky. My damage against debuffed enemies rerolled into damage against crowd control enemies, which in my case is exactly the same stuff. So that's how a good Lacrima two-hander blunt looks like. And this is where I finish my video. Bye bye.